In the heart of Alberta, where the foothills meet the prairies, lies a city often defined by its rugged individualism and Western heritage. But beyond the cowboy hats and oil rigs is a thriving, resilient community that has shaped Calgary's culture in ways seldom told. This is the story of the Queers of Calgary, a story of struggle and celebration, of hidden histories and bold futures. Here in the shadows of the Rockies, they've carved out spaces to call their own, pushing boundaries and redefining what it means to belong. This is their journey. This is their voice. Welcome to Queers of Calgary.
Queers of Calgary, roll 1, scene 2, take 1.
My name is Daphne, and I am a first-generation immigrant in Calgary. I moved here 2.5 years ago from Nigeria. I am a lesbian woman, and one of the major reasons why I moved out of Nigeria was because of the anti-LGBTQ law back home. And I came to find home in Canada and bring as much of my Nigerianness with me, find community, build community, and just be myself as a Black lesbian woman. I grew up in a very closely knitted family. My dad died really early. I was 4 years old. And so I just grew up with a single mom, and I have 2 brothers, one older and one younger. My brothers are my absolute rock. I can't do anything at all without them. Growing up, it was initially just me and my older brother, and I always wanted to do everything my older brother was doing. If my brother is wearing pants, I wear pants. So I grew up quite in the androgynous space. That's why you never really see me wear dresses or skirts, because I always wanted to do everything my brother was doing. My brother went to medical school, I went to medical school and studied to become a pharmacist. And when I came out to them, my brothers, I had the best support. My brother didn't even care. He was like, "I'm so okay. That's fine." Sometimes we make a joke like, Mom raised everyone to love women because we're 3 of us love women, right? And so I've always had my family support. My mom is a pastor, so understandably, she's not 100% with me being a lesbian, but she loves me in spite. She wants me in her life, so she's ready to accommodate. However, she doesn't just want to, talk about it or anything like that. And I respect her enough not to do it. I have the support from my brothers, and that's all I need, to thrive in my Black lesbian life. So I'm so grateful that I have that. But I also have chosen family. My wife is my chosen family. My entire community is my chosen family. And I feel like the support I get from both my nuclear family, my brothers, and my chosen family shaped me into what I am now and what I do for the community.
I come from half an immigrant family that immigrated here from Peru to Canada, and the other half is Quebec, French, Canadian. So I grew up in Montreal for a little bit as a child, and I then moved to Toronto, and then finally moved to Calgary in 2004. Coming to Calgary in 2004, I was about 16 years old, and I moved from the suburbs of the GTA. So moving into the city, I was really come faced with the realities of homelessness. At the time, I would walk to my part-time job, which meant I would go under 5th Street Bridge and see a lot of homeless people. For me, it really affected me simply because that was a huge fear I had. I was afraid that if I came out to my family, that I would be homeless as well. It actually really shaped me and the person I am, because a lot of the decisions that I have made, such as like getting my acting gear and getting post-secondary and things like that to get financial stability, and joining the forces for subsidized education and financial stability, those decisions were really stemming from fear. As a 16-year-old and coming to terms with your own sexuality at a time where people are, I'm not saying the nicest things about homosexuality, it's hard. It's hard to accept that that is a part of who you are and it's not going to go away. As a kid, I tried to like pray the gay away, and that didn't work out. And I started to lean a lot on the people at my workplace, at my unit, who are really supportive of that side of me, and leaning onto the queer community in Calgary, and just trying to find my chosen family. My family had traditional and religious beliefs that were against homosexuality. And so growing up, I heard a lot of talks about, not just in my family, but in Canadian culture, and a lot of my friends who were queer in their families saying like, if you're gay, you're not my daughter, you're not living in this house. That really brought me close to that reality of potentially being homeless as a teenager or as a young adult. Thankfully things have changed tremendously with my family today, and we're the closest we've ever been. And that's something I actually want to touch on, is that the unit that I joined in Calgary, they were a tremendous help and support in the darkest times of my life, where I was out and being my authentic self throughout the whole day, and then at the end of the day I'd have to come home and put myself back in the closet. Doing that every day for years and years is so hard mentally. It really impacts your confidence in yourself, and the fact that I had a unit that was like driving me home on those nights and just basically allowing me to lean on them and being like, you're gonna get through this. If anything happens, like, you're welcome to like stay with us, to lean on us. You're an amazing soldier. Like, oh God, I could like cry like just thinking about like how much I really value that support. When I was in basic training, I had a instructor, and he pulls me aside from like a machine gun class that we're having. And he's like, hey, Private Fournier, I heard some rumors, and I just want to like check in with you and make sure that these aren't just like lies, but I heard you were gay, is that true? And I was like, oh God, like, this is it, I'm done. Like, and I didn't know that I could serve and be gay at the time in 2006. I just was brand new to the organization. And I was like, this is it. It's over for me. And like, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm gay. And his reaction was like, high five, girl. I'm so happy I'm not the only gay person in the unit. And that guy like took me under his wing and showed me the queer community in Calgary and bits of Edmonton as well. He was just ecstatic to like, finally there's another queer person in the unit. So
my name is Shana McPherson, but the broader community knows me as Shane on You. I grew up in the northern part of Alberta, and then when I moved down here I came to go to school. So I got my social work diploma at Mount Royal, and then I went into a little bit of that work and steered away from it. Then I kind of got lost in addiction, as many of us do in our community. Found the roots of AA, and through AA I found myself, which led me to drag, and back into the community again as a healthy person doing drag and back involved in the community. Getting sober really gave me, I know I bring that up a lot, but it was a huge part of me finding myself. So 5 years in, I was like, okay, where do I want to go with my life? And I went to Okotoks Pride. It was a really small event and all that, and I saw these drag performers, and to me that was it. That was an amazing moment in my life. I was like, that's what I want to do. It was life-changing, and having the sobriety in my life, I was fortunate enough to be able to do these things, because I was a mess before that. So it really gave me a chance to find me. Well, I grew up in a small town, and there wasn't a lot to do up there, so there was a lot of drinking and partying and all that kind of stuff. And fortunately, I did drink. I was well maintained then and all that, but I had an alcoholic boyfriend at the time. This was before I was out, of course, growing up in a small northern town. So I had lots of people in my life that were drinkers, so I ended up taking care of them. So I was able to maintain myself for a long time. And then in my late 30s, I didn't have anybody else to take care of anymore, and I kind of let myself go. I had stopped doing social work because it was really hard working with youth at that age. I went away from it, had my own courier business. It was really easy to get lost, and I did. I got lost in the addiction. And then, for whatever reason, I was given an ultimatum and was told, you gotta sober up or move on. Thankfully, I chose to sober up, and, it kind of gave me the path to better my life. And, it's never too late. I didn't sober up till my late 30s. So it was and now I'm 51. So, it's never too late to change the direction of your life. And for me, that was a huge part of it, was the recovery. I had a great support of a lot of females when I came in, because I decided to go into a female, or a ladies' meeting is what it was called at that time. So I had great support there. When I decided to branch out and go out, it was a little more difficult to feel like I could really be myself, to express queer issues. However, I did state proudly that I was a feminist lesbian, and angered a few people in the meeting, which made me even more determined to stay sober and to do it right in front of their faces. So thankfully, again, I had lots of supports around me that were great, so I was able to do that. Plus, I'm able to be a part of a support system for the people around me as well. I have trans youth under my roof, and as well as in my troupe. I myself am trans and still finding my way, even at my age. So it's been very important to me to have both chosen family and immediate family around me, and I've been very fortunate to have a lot of support from both.
My name is Danica Zenthi, and I've been tattooing in Calgary for about 6.5 years, and that's the biggest thing I've ever done in my life, and it's a huge part of who I am. I also identify as obviously queer and non-binary, and neurodivergent as well, and I find that really ties into my work and my general life experience. I moved to Canada when I was very young. I immigrated from the UK, and then pretty much immediately grew up in a rural area. As soon as I was able to, I moved into the city, feeling very lost and kind of seeking that perspective that I was always looking for. But yeah, growing up rurally, I didn't really have a sense of direction, and I did feel very othered and very lost, and kind of confused as to why that was. And I think that I've been able to find that as I've gotten older. I became a tattoo artist because I always had a passion for art, and I think it was always a pipe dream. I was oh, that would be a cool thing, but not really accessible to me or attainable. So I went to university for arts and education. I wanted to be a high school teacher because I had a really great experience with a high school teacher, specifically in art. And so that was kind of the path that I went down, and sort of realized that I'm not built for post-secondary, and kind of reframing how I wanted to use art as a form of career. And I actually had a friend who was a tattoo artist, or specifically an apprentice, in Lethbridge, where I was going to uni. And so I asked him a lot of questions and really got a feel for the industry at the time, which is very different from how it is now. And that kind of helped me gauge if that was something that I could actually try pursuing, and I just went for it because I have such a passion for art and different mediums, and it's always been a specific medium of art that's really appealed to me. And so that's how I got into it. I just built a portfolio, and I honestly got really lucky. I was partially approached by a studio, which a lot of the time you have to really go door to door and be told off a lot, and we don't want you, and it's a very hard industry to get into. So I definitely feel very lucky that it's an industry that I'm a part of, and watching it change over the years as well. The inclusivity and just the general environment of the tattoo community and the industry working within it is so different now from how it used to be. It's very much like a boys' club still in a way, but that's definitely how it was when I started. And so coming in at the time identifying as a woman, that was already just immediately a barrier coming into that sort of industry. And then later on kind of finding myself in my queerness and realizing that I am non-binary and what that looks like too within those sorts of spaces and those sorts of studios. I started out in studios that were not super inclusive and not super mindful, and I think that kind of generally came with time as well, but definitely within the tattoo community and the framework that we create for our clientele and what that will look like has changed a lot. And I'm very lucky now to work in a studio that's super queer inclusive and inclusive to all bodies and all races. And that's something that I didn't experience in my studio space for myself and for my clientele for a very long time. I think first and foremost, being queer in the tattoo community is really important. It kind of puts me in this role of like creating a safe space for my clientele as well as myself. And I'm very proud of like how I've curated that because it is so important to me. But also the imagery that I use in my art and being able to pull from my own unique experiences is really special as well. For me personally, I have had negative experiences getting tattoos and being in tattoo spaces. So it's become like very foundational for me to create that environment for all involved.
My name is Zoe Hicks. I am currently a member of Team Canada for both women's baseball and women's softball. I've been playing softball since I was 6 years old and baseball somewhat recently. So I would say that playing sports growing up has shaped me immensely. I am super competitive. I am very driven. I have some big goals for my life. And it's all wrapped around the sports that I love to play. So for me, my involvement in community have kind of always been around sport, whether that's developing my own game or giving back to the community that has raised me. I think that's kind of a big thing for who I am. I started playing softball when I was 12. I didn't get to baseball until I was about 20. Just kind of how my life kind of went from there. 12-year-old me was obsessed with my dance classes. I loved to be the center of attention. I loved to have my big smile up on stage to be able to show off for my friends and family. 12-year-old me was really energetic. I loved softball because I could be helpful for my team, but it was all about the team. It didn't matter about individual successes. It was all how can I help my team win? And so I really liked that at the time. I think I've fluctuated from that passion, that energy, that loud little 12-year-old. I think at points I tried to quiet myself. I tried to fit into a box. I tried to be a certain type of person. So from 12-year-old me, I just want to say I'm sorry for putting you in the box, but we do eventually get out of the box to be our true selves on the field and off the field. You just have to find your people that value you and that enjoy your presence around. I was told by a lot of people that I was too much, and now me being too much has led me to really accomplishing all the goals that I've set for myself. I think a team is kind of a built-in family. And so as someone who moved around a bunch as a kid, having a team there was almost like built-in friends. So it was natural to become close to your teammates because you're sharing a lot of the same things, right? If you're in college with that team, you're spending a lot of time at weights together and in the training room and at practice and at games. So it becomes like a second family for you. So for me, as a queer individual, I had to show up as myself to then give the people around me space and freedom to do the same. But I think a team environment just lends itself to getting to know people really well, and you get to know who that person is at their core, and they become family. So I've been really fortunate to play on a bunch of teams, so I have a lot of family members, you could say. I was really fortunate that I have a very supportive family, both in my queer identity as well as my athletic endeavors. My family is my biggest support system. My dad and my mom are at every game that I play now, so it's really great to have, and it is a privilege that I understand a lot of people don't have. They don't have that supportive family, so for me, I have that responsibility of I want to make them proud. I know they're going to be proud of me regardless, but I think every kid wants to make their parents proud in whatever they're doing. So yeah, for me, it's just kind of like I want to give back to their support, and I want to have them to be able to enjoy the kind of, I'd say the good times that we're having now, rather than, only dealing with the drives to practice and the drives to games. Now we get to have fun and we get to travel all over the world because of the softball situation.
I'm River Lara, and I use they, them pronouns. I was born and raised here. My family has spent 140 years in the area. We were original colonizers of the area, or some of the original colonizers in there, at least. I think that queer is being inclusive to the entire LGBT community. I also think there's room in there for questioning people who are trying to figure out a lot of themselves. So yeah, I think it's just an inclusive title for anyone who is sexually or gender diverse.
Previously, that word was used as a slur. How do you feel now that it's being used in a positive light, or that it should be?
It's really interesting because I run a community group And for the younger generations, it's been very much reclaimed. So people very much identify with the label queer. However, working with older populations, that slur or that derogatory meaning is still there. So some of them don't identify with that word. What aspects of life bring you the most joy and fulfillment?
Honestly, is connections. Laughing with my friends and my family, spending quality time with my lover, building community makes me so happy. When I'm in Black Pride YYC events and I see, the entire community come alive and just be, and I see the Black queer community having fun and thriving, that's what gives me real joy.
I think living in the city, being where my family is, being where my partner is, and close to my friends and family and people that mean the most to me, is probably the most joy fulfillment for me. I'm really cherishing the fact that I can now live and share the same bed with my partner day in, day out, and I don't have to, do a drive back to the base in Edmonton or do a long distance relationship. I think I've really taken that for granted before I was posted there. I love this city. I love the community, the culture, the restaurants, exploring different spaces in the city and the activities that we have, and just being so close to the mountains and being able to hike and just escape and be just in nature.
Joy is, drag for one thing, absolutely is joyful. My drag troupe, my partner Naomi, as well as her 3 kids. I have a ready-made family now, which, at 51 I didn't expect to happen. So, it's been a beautiful blessing. Seeing the community come together in these unfortunate times, that brings me a little bit of joy, just knowing that we are strong. Kind of a tragic beauty, I guess you would call it. Family, drag, and AA and the queer community actually are all the things that bring a lot of joy into my life.
I find a lot of joy and fulfillment in the chosen family that I've been able to curate for myself, as well as like my hobbies and meeting people through that, and finding myself through all of these things and kind of like trying new things and seeing what works for me in my life. I'm like a collector of hobbies. I feel like I have every hobby under the sun. Like I do crochet and I do climbing and I do I would really like to make music, but I used to be like a choir kid and things like that. So I feel like I have all these little, like a jack of all trades sort of thing, but with hobbies. My chosen family is friends and relationships. I feel like over the past, especially like 3 or 4 years, I've really created this collective of people that I have so much value in, or I see so much value in, and bring so much value to my life. And I hope that I do the same. I feel really lucky that I have connected with the people that I've connected with, because I think, especially as someone who is neurodivergent, I think that human connection can be really hard to find and to curate. And so the fact that I've been able to do that and meshed it so well, it feels really special, because it's something that I didn't always know would be attainable for me.
I think for me, I'm always trying to find the next challenge. I'm, like we talked about, I'm uber competitive. So for me, it's always what's the next thing that I can challenge myself with. I don't want to ever just sit back and be comfortable. I want to learn and grow and keep pushing myself. So I think that brings me a whole bunch of joy, just being able to push my limits and see how good I can get at something, or if I can find any skills at it at all. I've tried learning a language just because I thought it'd be a challenge. So those things create a lot of joy for me, just being able to see kind of how I can push myself. But yeah.
To me, love looks like coming home and seeing your partner every day, day in, day out. It's not a long distance thing. It's being able to have dinner with them. It's being able to wake up with them and go to bed with them. And it's even just the simplest things like watching TV together or going for a walk together. It's quality time for me. It's being in close proximity to each other. It's physical touch for me as well. And it's give and take. And I'm a giver. It gives me joy to give and to provide support and give them what they need, and then receiving that as well. On the flip side, to me, love is having that one that you can see yourself spending the rest of your life with that has just the right amount of spicy, just the right amount of like, you're kind of annoying me, but I love you.
I'd have to say love looks like whatever you need it to look like. Caring, compassion, understanding, empathy, being able to build each other up in ways that we might not see ourselves, you know? So, you know, positive affirmations, those kind of things are very important in my family structures.
The way that love looks like for me is, it's very broad, because I think that word means a lot of things. I hold so much value in platonic love, and I think that sometimes it's even bigger than romantic love for me. And building that foundational and that support has been really pivotal for me through different life experiences and different hardships and things like that. I think that having that platonic love specifically has gotten me through some of the hardest things that I've experienced in my life, and then also having romantic connections as well. And having that romantic love, I think, is very important, and that can mean different things, and you can kind of curate that, different connections with different people, and that doesn't have to look one way. And I think that that's what love means to me, is that it never looks one way.
I'm a big lover, I would say. I'm very affectionate with my friends. I'm very affectionate with my family. I love hugs. I love to give my love very freely, and I have a lot of love to give. So to me, like, love is just that safety, that comfort, that feeling that you can bring whatever you're dealing with to another person or to another group, and they will welcome you in with open arms, with empathy, with understanding, with a caring nature. I think love is misunderstood in a way. I don't think it needs to be just left for certain people. I think you can love someone walking down the street. I think you can care about people that you just met. I think you can care about people that you don't even know. I think love doesn't have to be coveted. I think it can be allowed to flow freely through everybody. And for me, like, I just try and love the moments, love the people, and love the experiences that I get to have, and it just makes them that much better.
Are there any standout moments, and if so, which ones, in your life that you look back on with happiness or pride?
Some of the moments that immediately come to my mind when I think of things that have happened to me that I'm proud of. The first one is actually successfully migrating from Nigeria with myself and my partner to a country where we could just be and love on each other publicly. I remember when she first landed, because I came like 2 years before, and when she landed, the first thing we did was to kiss at the airport and look around to see if there was nobody gonna arrest us or anything like that. So that was such a relief for me, and I think one of the proudest moments I've had in Calgary was when we launched Black Pride YYC. It was such a touching moment for me because it's finally happening, because that's my heart project, right? So it's finally happening and I've seen it happen, you know, and I use that medium to ask them how to serve them and what they want to see in Black Pride YYC, what they want to get from Black Pride YYC in the next couple of years. That was, I want to say that was my proudest moment. I loved it. Black Pride YYC is a non-profit organization for the Black queer community here in Calgary. I founded Black Pride YYC last year because of the lack of community for Black people here in Calgary. When I came here, I'm somebody who likes to be involved with community, you know, hang out with people like me, you know, Black queer people, and I wasn't really finding anything. I searched on Google, I used hashtags on Instagram, I checked everywhere to see where the gays are, you know, where are the Black gays hanging out? And there was really nothing. And even when I tried to be in spaces where it's for queer people, you know, I barely ever see any representation of Black there. Somebody made a joke and said there's like 5 Black queer people in the entire Calgary, you know, so it's just not being able to find people. I was like, okay, you know what, let's create our own. And it wasn't even official initially. It was just, I met a couple of Black queer people. We used my house as, you know, the hanging out spot. So everyone used to come to my house every Friday. It has to be more Black queer people out there. You know, how can we connect with them? Because I know that Calgary has become like a hub for immigrants, for people leaving from even other provinces. I'm moving down to Calgary, so I know that there are Black queer people amongst the people coming into Calgary every day. I want to be able to connect with them, and that's why Black Pride YYC now became official. You know, I registered the organization. I gathered my entire executives from the people who used to come and, you know, view in my house and just have fun. And then we created Black Pride YYC to create community for ourselves and connect with other people. Black Pride YYC were basically like 7-8 months now since we were running. We had our Christmas party, we had over 40 people. I was so excited because we were just 3 months in and we had over 40 people come and actually party. Right now we're working on an art show we're doing in summer. We're trying to do an art show to showcase Black queer visual artists in one side of it, and then another side of it is Black queer performance artists. So, you know, of course there's dance, there's spoken word, there's poetry, there's drag, which is art. So we're able to also do the first ever Black ball in Calgary, because Calgary has never had a Black ballroom. Yeah, so those are the things, those are the kind of activities we're starting. The next thing we're doing is an economic resilience project. We have just started the plans for that. We're going to be training people on how to be entrepreneurs. We also have programs for interview prep, resume building. So Black Pride YYC is not really all about just party and fun. It's also trying to build a community that can stand tall, even in the midst of all the economic issues that we are having. You know, I want a community where Black people have jobs, Black people can fend for themselves, Black people are entrepreneurs and the businesses are thriving, even in Calgary, those kind of things. So we're trying to create programs like that that will train the Black queer community on how to be economically smart and financially independent.
I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to get our military participation in the Pride Parade for the first time in 2012, and that hadn't been done before. That was a huge proud moment for me. The part of that really hit close to home was not only seeing my colleagues like walking in this parade with me and showing that, hey, you know, I'm not just saying that I support you as a queer person, but I'm here in this, doing the action, you know, that is like speaking to my words. Another moment was seeing a purge survivor while I was, you know, marching in this parade in uniform. And I recall this one moment where this woman who thanked me and shook my hand and hugged me for being in this parade, and she's like, it means so much to me that you can do this. I wasn't able to do this, but I love that I've seen that this organization has progressed so much. And yeah, there's like tears forming, you know, with both of us in that moment. And it meant so much to her that, you know, now I'm here doing this job and I don't have to choose between, you know, me wanting to commit my service to my country and me you know, being my authentic self. The purge happened in the Cold War era, the 80s and 90s, and it was essentially an interrogation of queer members out of fear that they would be blackmailed. Queer members of the military and our CMP were essentially ousted out of the organization out of fear of like blackmail during the Cold War era, which is nonsensical. And so they created what was called a fruit machine to help detect, you know, if they were gay or not. And they essentially went through a pretty invasive interrogation process that sometimes endured days. And these survivors had to choose whether or not they could be either gay or serve their country. And thanks to them and their fight to allow us and citizens fighting for our equal rights and being accepting of queer members of the military and in society has really allowed us to like move from that. So I really owe it to those survivors to be able to serve today. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing, and I would hate to be put in a situation where it's like, this is what I want to do. I want to serve my country. I feel like I'm meant for it, and to be robbed of that opportunity simply because of who I love. In every base, typically we have what's called these defense advisory groups, and there's different groups for different minorities in the military. So we have one for women, Indigenous, neurodivergent, visible minorities, and for the queer community. I was honored to be a part of one in Edmonton as the event lead for that group. And our job was essentially to advise senior leadership on how do we navigate and commemorate and celebrate queerness in the military. And so we would say, you know, today is Trans Day of Visibility. Really advise you raise a flag for that. Another one of the recommendations is like, we're gonna have a pride parade on base for the first time in history. We need to have your approval on this, and these are the reasons why we think it's important. And then we get the leaderships, the base commander basically stamping on like, yep, 100%, I agree with you, let's do it, let's make it happen. We did those things. I
have an all ages drag troupe. Started out as just a youth drag troupe. I do allow all ages, and my youngest performer now just turned 10. They were 9, and the oldest so far is myself. When I first started in drag, my drag father, and a lot of people know that there's drag families, so my drag father who taught me about drag and kind of led me down the path, had their youth drag show that happened, I think, 4 times a year. And I started going to that, and I was like, you know, this is what I wish I had when I was a kid. So when they stopped doing it, I was like, we need this. So I picked up the ball again and decided that this has got to happen. Thankfully, I had, the support to do it through Twisted in the beginning, and now through the drag parents, through my drag youth. Everybody's kind of come on board and really built a really strong troupe is what I would like to call it. Yeah. So what it's like to come to one of our shows and to be a part of the all ages troupe is fun. It's family, it's connection, and there's nothing more important than connection. I believe that the opposite of addiction is connection. So if we can create connection, that hopefully some of the youth won't have to go through some of the things that some of us had to. So when you come to a show as an ally, you get to see a happy community, a healthy community, love. There's a lot of love at our shows, pure joy. It's really an experience. You have to come and enjoy yourself and really see. And you can see it in not just the kids' face, the adults' faces who come as well. It's kind of just a place to be you. The troupe itself basically consists of myself and Naomi and a gaggle of young gay humans and their parents. They do so much for us. We've done things with Calgary Pride. We're closely tied with Rainbow Elders, so we do things with them. It's really bridging that gap that for a long time was not being tended to, I guess you could say. That through all this hate, that we've kind of decided that we need to be stronger and to bridge that gap and this does that. This is part of it. If you've never been to a drag show that have youth in it, I mean, all drag shows are joy. Like I've been to all sorts of different types, and you can't but feel happy. When you go to a drag show that's full of youth and you see these young humans up there, or people that have never been on stage before up there, living their best life, there's no better feeling than that, for me at least.
I really have a strong passion for showcasing different aspects of my identity through my art, because I think that I have the opportunity to do it. So I feel like that's how you find the most heart in the art that you make, is drawing from personal experience. And I think especially as a tattoo artist, and being able to create designs that are inclusive is really cool and really special. Pulling from my own experience and from partners' experiences and friends' experiences, and using that as inspiration that I can visualize and then turn into a tattoo is like just an extra really interesting aspect of it. I definitely think that there are some parallels of getting a tattoo and existing as a trans person. I think inherently getting a tattoo, you're putting so much trust into another person in that whole process and actively getting the tattoo, and it's a very vulnerable state to be in, and I think that kind of just comes with being trans and being queer. So I think that there is a lot of parallels in that. It took me a while to find community. specifically in queer spaces. I actually was like in a long-term heterosexual relationship that was like not super healthy, not super safe, things like that. And that was about 4.5 years, 5 years. So really only in the last 3 years have I been able to kind of immerse myself in queer culture and queer community within Calgary. So it definitely took me a while to get there, but it was always sort of this thing that I was seeking and missing. You know, like I had that. I think that I'm like an entirely different person than how I was even 3 years ago. But definitely growing up, I think that I held a lot of confusion and anger in myself growing up because I didn't have resources as a queer person and not understanding what that meant. And then as I've gotten older, I've been able to find those things and understand myself better. And so I've kind of come into this like tenderness and this kindness and things like that I maybe didn't experience before and didn't have within myself before. Because I very much was living in this like, this is what you do, these are the milestones that you hit, and doing that within like a heterosexual sense. And then kind of obviously realizing like, I can't do that to myself. And finding that later on in life, it took me a while to get out of that situation. But I think that like, I have a lot of tenacity, and I think that has shaped me a lot as a person through that experience of dealing with abuse, and then pushing past things like that to really like come into my queerness and not be afraid of that anymore.
I think the easiest one for this is just the first time I played with the national team across my chest. I had wanted to be on that field and play with those girls since I was 12, and I started taking softball really seriously. So to be able to stick to a goal for that long, like that was 13 years of my life being put towards one singular goal. And looking back and saying I did that, I committed to that for so long, and I really put in the work every single day to be able to get there. That is kind of one of the biggest moments that I can look back on and say, yeah, like this is something I wanted, and I went out and got it. And it didn't matter what kind of took me off that road or made me shy away from it. I stuck to it, and I kept on my road.
What made you decide to start Queers of Calgary?
Absolutely. So, flashback to the summer of 2022. There was a bored and lonely River who, for whatever reason, decided that drinking beer with their friends once a month would be an appropriate community action. And I wanted to do a once a month beer hang. And that's where we started in the September of 2022 with a once a month beer hang. It was also post Pride, because our Pride is in Labor Day weekend in September as well. And I was getting a little bit frustrated that we have a month, but then it seems like the community disappears unless you're going to the bars the rest of the year. So I wanted to provide an opportunity for that to happen, or find an opportunity for that to happen. And I couldn't find one. So then I went back to bed for another month or so. Still lonely. I said, well, if there isn't one, then I guess we can make one. And then I started making one. And like I said, it was only supposed to be a once a month hangout. But it very quickly transitioned into more than that. Something I've been wanting to do for a while was our Trans Day Remembrance Evening. So we held a film night here in this building community-wise. We connected with the community partner here, Arts Presentation Society, and that's where we used to shoot to show our film. We present our film festival every year, which also takes place in the summertime. So I guess there's an opportunity to be connected with community outside of the bars. And then in December, I also decided to add to board games to the mix of things. So every Friday we play. From there, I don't know what happened. We gained 1,500 followers over the Christmas holiday season. Somehow between September 21st and February 22nd, held 38 events. We're growing and we're building a board. And as someone with a disability, you're often told kind of negative things like you can't do this or you can't do that, or you're never going to be good at X, Y, Z. So it's just kind of cool to have seen this project be affirmed by the community as hard as it has been, and to have this board wrap itself around and professionals be volunteering their services, if it be a professional film crew or a professional website developer or professional fundraisers
or just this entire community just jump on board with what we're doing. So it's been pretty cool to watch.
How do you see inclusivity and community building happening in Alberta right now, and where do you hope it goes?
So back home, I faced homophobia. And coming to Calgary was supposed to be finding safety. And then I came here and I faced racism. So there's oppression everywhere. You know, and being a Black lesbian woman doesn't make it any better, because you're a woman, you're Black, and then you're queer. It just makes life 1,000 times harder, And back home, the type of, I was never singled out because of the color of my skin or because of my name. The darker you are, the finer you are. The only thing that people would fight you for is that you're gay and you're a lesbian, or things like that. Back home, I can't even be gay because it's a 14-year jail term. We have 14 years of jail time if you're caught either in a queer gathering, caught in the act, I don't know whatever the act means. Meanwhile, if you're a pedophile, it's 10 years. Help me make it make sense that being gay is worse than, Now Ghana came up with a law of 3 years if you are caught as an LGBTQ ally. Now you don't even have to be gay. You just need to be an ally or be a journalist and report on queer story in a positive way. 3 years of jail term. Coming here, I've now seen that, I can be a lesbian. However, I'm Black. I don't think I could conceptualize being Black when I was back home, because everyone is Black, right? But here now I know that I'm Black. I'm reminded that I'm Black every day. It is exhausting to have to prove yourself every time. It is exhausting to work twice as hard because people feel like, you don't deserve these things. You don't deserve a good job. You don't deserve a great house. There's not a lot of space, safe spaces, opportunities for Black people. And then imagine now being Black and queer. That already takes you down, the marginalized line. Then imagine being Black and trans. That's the bottom. My experiences every day shape who I am. And I'm going to continue to do the work that I do. I'm going to continue to fight and make sure that Black people are taking up spaces. The only way we're going to have this change that we're looking for is infiltrating the spaces where the change is being spoken about. I want to be on the round table where you're making policies about Black people, because then that's the only way you're going to be able to include Black people in your policy making. I feel like there's so much work that Alberta needs to do in terms of inclusivity. I want to be able to be part of the movement that shapes our Black queer future. I'm hoping that through our storytellings, through our connections, through Black Pride YYC, we're able to start to create the environment that we want to see, which is more inclusive.
What I'm seeing in our queer community in Calgary is that there is quite a bit of tension with half of the community wanting to be more inclusive, just wanting to heal our past traumas and addressing the past and moving on from it, and just having, different organizations jump on board so that they can be heard. And I feel like we have another side of it that is not ready. So I think it's a really tough place to be in right now. I think the queer community is divided in this. Not everybody thinks that cancel culture works or is the right thing. For sure, it can be effective, but where are you going to move from this? And how is it going to start with those hard conversations with all these organizations? I hope that it comes to a point where we can start the healing process and start addressing and having those difficult conversations, and not just blowing up on social media, putting anybody down who has a different perspective. We need to take a step in order for things to change, and we may not know where that's going to go, right? But the point is that I don't think, at least on my side, I personally don't think we should continue to dwell on the past if we want to move forward. that's not to say that that we're forgetting about the past, we're trying to erase it. I hope that, in this film, in this documentary, we can start having those conversations, and that anybody who sees me walking down the street and wants to talk to me about what I've just said, I just want to learn from them, and I want in return for them to learn from me as well, to understand that, this is my world, tell me about yours. I think people in the queer community tend to think that the military being part of the Pride Parade is just some PR stunt to try to get political bonus points. I think that couldn't be farther from the truth. For me, it was huge importance for me to see my colleagues work and be in that parade with me. I have a hard time wrapping my head around what police suppression and the military have to do with each other. And the last thing I want to do is, create a trauma triggering response to people and make them feel uncomfortable. It's not my place to say we're going to be in this parade. No, it's up to the community to decide that. But I personally believe that it goes hand in hand. My role to defend this country and to have national security plays a part in you not having to worry about that, and trusting that we are a secure and free country and that you can fight as a citizen for equal rights. I, as a soldier, don't have that right to take part in any form of protest or any political activities. I don't have that freedom, but a Canadian citizen does. And that's where I'm like, we can do this together, hand in hand. I'll do the fighting and I will be ready to fight for you, so you don't have to, and you do the other half. Every citizen could essentially do more work in putting in the research and not just sticking to their social media feeds. I think the more we dive into those social media bubbles, the more silent we become. And so we need to start, engaging with people on the other side of the coin and just understanding each other's perspectives without putting each other down. Researching and looking in what's being reported in the news and, critiquing the news as well. Asking yourself, what biases do I currently have when I'm observing this?
Right now it's awful. Our government is taking us backwards. Our government does not support our community. As far as I'm concerned, they're trying to eliminate us. It's what they've done in the past. Tired old tropes, right? That taking away our rights is somehow benefiting them. But one thing I can say is that I've seen the strength in our community. So out of this tragedy, we've seen the growth of our community coming together. We still need to do it. So my hopes are that, going forward, that not only our community, but our allies as well will come out and vote and change the direction of this province. So as a drag performer, emphasizing the fact that it is not a sexual thing is very important to me. Because I work with a lot of youth, not only with my drag troupe, but through their so-called big hate thing right now. I'm one of the original members of the Reading with Royalty program in Calgary, with Calgary Pride and the Calgary Public Library. And I've been called awful things and had awful things said to me and, tried to be doxxed because of all this stuff. And White Lives Matter, which is a real thing, has been trying to figure out who I am, because they're so convinced that what we are doing is wrong. They talk about we do these things in front of kids that we're not doing. It's not even happening. And if it is, there's an issue there that's not our issue. There's something going on in that community. But that's not happening here. At a Reading with Royalty, we read books to kids. We read books about acceptance and love. We read books about different kinds of family, about the queer community, about what pride is, simple stuff like that. And then we do a dress up at the end, which has somehow been misconstrued to the fact that the people who are there, like myself reading, are dressing these children up. These kids are putting on tutus over their clothes. Growing up in the AIDS epidemic, they had the same tired tropes then, that it was our fault. It hasn't changed. It's the same thing. They just keep re-putting a new cover story on it, right? Now it's that we're groomers because we read books to kids. It's the same old, we're over-sexualized community. We're not human beings to them. We're mentally ill. But unfortunately, we've gone backwards because of it, right? Because hate is so prevalent and so loud. Suicide rates for trans teens are going up again. Things are getting bad again because of this, because hate has been made okay. If you are youth out there and you are struggling, there's places to reach out. Check out things like Skipping Stones. Check out, reach out to the Rainbow Elders. Reach out to the drag troops. Reach out to other queers that are in the community through your social media. You can go to Calgary Pride. There's so many ways to reach out. I encourage people to do that. Let's talk about this. We need to be strong. We need to be together on this. Right now it's a difficult time, but it's not a time for us to shy away and cower down. We can't. They want to eliminate us, and we just need to show that we're not going anywhere and how strong we are. And I think that that's really the most important message in this day and age right now.
The way that I have experienced inclusivity building and community is through events, and I think that there's always more to be made as well. But even things like queer clothing swaps and just the mutual aid that we all share and provide with each other is really special. And I feel like that's something that can come very uniquely with the queer community. Using our voices to speak out about things and activism and things like that, and mutual aid specifically, because there is so much of that's needed within the queer community. Support within the community or many communities, whether that be financial or otherwise. I think that is inherently something that goes hand in hand with being queer. I think that speaking on that, first and foremost, is kind of like a stepping stone, and then actually taking the steps to make these things happen, and contributing and protesting, and just making our voices heard as queer people, and encouraging allies around us to do the same.
So my community, specifically with athletes, at the CSI Calgary, the Canadian Sport Institute, the first event I ever went to with them was the Pride Parade. So as a first time, just moved to Calgary, just started training at the CSI, they made it very well known that this is a place of inclusivity, this is a place of welcoming. And I really don't spend a lot of time outside of my training environment. So for me, it was really important to have that space and have that welcoming environment, just because I spend so much time there. So if I feel like I have to change who I am walking into a space that I spend a lot of time at, that has negative consequences for me as a person and just for how I feel. So I think the welcoming community that they have created within Team Canada, from alpine skiing to softball, is super important, because people feel welcome and people want to come to Calgary to train. They want to be a part of that environment. They want Team Canada to be, on their front while they're waving the pride flag. So those things are important on the national team stage, just because we're representing so many things. And if people see that on their TV of oh, this person won a World Cup, and they're sitting with Canada on their chest and a rainbow flag in their hand, it is a welcoming community, and they see representation, right? If they want to start playing a sport, they can now look at someone who is out and proudly queer in that sport, and there's a stage for them and there's a platform for them. I went to school in Louisiana, and as you can imagine, there's a large religious influence in the southern states. So it wasn't always said out loud, but there were certain times to certain places where I couldn't dress a certain way. I had to look tidy, I had to look feminine, I had to look womanly, whatever it may be, to show up to certain things. And I would say that shaped who I was for a long time. I thought that there were different Zoes that showed up to different events, and I kind of had to shield my queer self from these people, right? Because they had their opinions, whether it be religious opinions or they just don't know. It all comes across in kind of the same way. It's discriminatory and it's harmful for who I am as a person. I don't feel as comfortable showing up naturally, showing up authentically. So yeah, those situations, just as it's not always said out loud, but it's expected that you wear a certain thing, or you act a certain way, that definitely changed how I handled my identity, I would say, in college. And then from there, I worked in a male-dominated field, which is professional baseball. So as a woman, there was a lot that I felt like I had to live up to. I think baseball asks for two types of women. They're either one of the guys, or they're very, very feminine and they're like the girly, makeup on, hair done type of person. And I don't really fit into either of those boxes. So while I was working in professional baseball, I felt like I had to pick one. So for the longest time, I was, doing my hair and doing my makeup and wearing pink all the time. And I felt like that wasn't authentically me. And even the opposite of being one of the guys and, wearing oversized baggy outfits. And that also wasn't authentic to me. I had to find my own identity within professional baseball, within a male-dominated field. And I really had to understand that for there to be space for women, for there to be space for queer people, there has to be space for all women and all queer people. It can't just be the palatable queer people, or it can't just be the pretty women who are there to interview the athletes. There has to be space for everyone. I think allyship is huge. It takes everyday people who might not be in the queer community, who might not be in the BIPOC community, who might not be in the disabled community to say, hey, these people can't access these services. These people don't feel welcome in these spaces. How can we make that better? Because it's a lot easier, a lot more palatable for the average human or the average system to take in, oh, I think we should make this better, rather than, oh my goodness, this is awful, let's change this whole system, right? So I think it's the little things of the everyday person taking a step up and stepping into that role of, I'm an ally here, I can help out. I might not be directly influenced, but I can help this person. Just because it's not me that's affected, I can have empathy for this group of people and I can help them out because I have this in. I have a seat at the table already, so I can now push to make the table longer or push to bring more seats to it, rather than us trying to get on the table and then elongate the table, if that makes sense. Specifically in my family, I have done a lot of work to raise the voices of other people, not just my own voice, because of the privilege that I do have. So I know that because I'm white, because I'm a white woman, and because I'm a white woman who does successful things in sports, I have a platform that also comes with the responsibility to elevate the voices of others. For me to be able to step up, show up, and take up space as a queer person, I can then bring other queer people in and have that uncomfortable become comfortable, and that unknown become known, and the understanding be there, the empathy be there. So I think that's just my goal as a whole. Like, I don't just want to be like, hey, look at me, like, white lesbian lady. I want everyone's voice to be heard in the room.
I think, like I was saying earlier, the loneliness factor really affects marginalized populations to a larger extent. I know there's currently a loneliness epidemic going on in the world, but I think it exasperates if you're a part of a marginalized population. I also think that there's a lot of other social science that suggests that community connection helps with mental health. Since I was a child, finding community was vital to my own mental health. So I really want other queers to find community. If that means coming to join Queers of Calgary, if you're local here, or if that means starting and building something in your own community. But I think it's vital. I think we've just gone through COVID, which caused a lot of global disconnection, and I think it's time to help build connection. So really my hope is that this project will allow us to inspire others to find community. Right now there's a lot of hatred. There's a lot of hate in Calgary and globally and across Canada. Hate crimes are on a giant increase. So it's really hard building community while in the face of hate. I think that we hate the things that we fear, and we fear the unknown. And I think by bringing people into these places where we can have these visible conversations, we're being able to fight the unknown part, and that's where we're able to stop the fear and maybe perhaps stop the hate. Every day when I think about planning activities, and every day when I think about building community, how do I make sure my community is safe while bringing people together? I see the protests that are happening here in Calgary, the all-age drag protests, and the youth who burnt the pride flag recently at one of our schools. I see those things, and I really hope that there's more power and more good coming from building that visibility and finding each other, rather than the scary part of being visible. But if we're not visible, we can't find each other. And if we can't find each other, then I continue to see those posts on Facebook, online, in conversations that I have of people being lonely. I think we can find our natural support systems in the building of community. And I think that with building those supports, mental health supports and the everyday living supports, friends who we can connect with, I think in that place we are building a level of support and safety within our community.
As the sun sets on Calgary, the story of its queer community remain vibrant, woven into the fabric of the city. The struggles may evolve, but the fight for visibility, equality, and joy endures. From the pioneers who paved the way to the young voices forging new paths, their impact is undeniable. The queers of Calgary are not just part of the city's history, they are its present and its future. Their stories continue to unfold, each one a testament to resilience, love, and the power of living authentically. Our stories are here to stay.